and welcome to this episode of Software Success from Dime. I'm Ashley Jones, and I am one of the educators here at Dime. And if you haven't met me or watched me, then I just want to say I love our Dime software, any software, really. I just think software is so important. And that's what our Software Success is all about, is making sure that you guys are successful with your embroidery software from Dime. We have lots of different pieces. So if you are new to Dime, I know we're getting a lot of new people. And so if you are new to Dime, we have tons of different software programs. So I think we're up to like 15 different pieces or so now. And here on Software Success, I go over all of those. And we have videos on all of them to help you learn your programs. And we also go over specific features that sometimes carry across all of those programs. So we have lots of people joining, and I'm so excited. If you're here, that means you're interested in learning more about your Dime software, or maybe you're wanting to learn what exactly it's capable of, which you certainly can learn here as well. So if you haven't already, say hi over there in the chat, and let's say hi to everyone, and we'll just give a little more time for some more people to join in before we actually get started here. And I already see some names that I recognize, so thanks for all of you guys that are joining us often and learning about your software. So I see Elaine Lesko from Bell Vernon, Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining, Elaine. She says 91 degrees there, so up north. Wow. And that is actually hotter than I am right now in southern Florida, which is kind of crazy. And Patricia Hale from the Adirondacks. I love the Adirondacks. So beautiful. We used to live in northern New York ages ago, and so such a beautiful area. Laura Parks, always. Thank you so much for being here, Laura, from Lincoln, Nebraska. So she's such a huge part of our events. Good to see you. Monica Seegard, thanks for joining from Fargo, North Dakota. We have Kirsten here from Sweden. Thanks for being here, Kirsten Engelmark. Good to see you as well. Mary Ann, so good to see you. Mary Ann is, I know, a frequent user of lots of our Dime software. My friend Eileen Reichert from Maryland, thanks for being here. Dawn Chase from Creative Appliques. She says from humid Virginia, and I agree. We've got the humidity down here too, Dawn, for sure. So, and Joanne Banco from, she said hot Ohio. Man, everybody is hot today, aren't they? And so thanks for being here, Joanne. You guys know Joanne Banco. She is such a huge part of our Dime team as well. So good to have her here. So Cindy, thanks for joining. Cindy, I know, has lots of fun with our software. Thanks for being here. Ms. Barbara George from Colony, Texas. Thanks for being here. Susie DeSoto from Arlington, Virginia. Thanks for being here with us today. So lots of people. My friend Bet, thanks for being here with us. Jackie Cheek, thanks for being here. So she says she's from Salamanca, New York. So I used to live in northern New York, but where is Salamanca, New York? Good to see you, Jackie. Thanks for being here. Our friend Reen Wilcoxon, you guys know Reen as well. Kelly Thrasher, thanks for being here. Hello from Alabama. I'm an Alabamian too. I've been all over. My husband was military for lots of years, so I've been all over. Adriana, thanks for being here. Adriana is actually part of our Dime team, so say hello to Adriana. Thanks for being here and watching. My friend Stephanie from Caesar. We got lots of people here today. Janie from South Texas. Oh my goodness. I love that we've got so many people joining in. I'm assuming it's because all of you guys watched our last presentation and absolutely loved it. I've heard lots of good comments about using all the Dime software together. And Kathy Purdy, thanks for being here. And she listed out the Dime software that she has. And I think that's like a good portion of them. I really don't see many that are missing there. Kathy, thank you so much for your support. How fun is that, right? So glad to have you guys here. Hi from Tampa, Lynn says, and my friend Stephanie says she's using the software to finish up some cruise projects. Her and Rena Wilcoxon will be cruising together, and so that will be fun for them for sure. I'm going to miss them both while they're gone on a cruise. So, okay, so last week we talked about how your Dime software programs all work together as one inside of our embroidery tool shed. And this week we're going to do the same thing basically, but we're just going to expand upon it a little bit more. This is a topic that I didn't feel like could only take place in just that one software success. So I really wanted to divide it up into two to give you guys more information. You guys had some fantastic questions last time. If you missed the episode 2 weeks ago, I urge you to go to our YouTube channel or our Facebook page and rewatch that, or watch it if you haven't already, because we answered a lot of questions live, but we kind of give the basis of everything working together. I'll start with that again, just in case we've got someone that didn't get to watch the episode 2 weeks ago. But this time we're going to do a project. And then I also had a specific question that someone had asked that they wanted me to answer, and I'm going to show how to do that as well. But what we are talking about is, I named this integrating tools and maximizing capabilities because, well, I know that's a mouthful, but it was such a great description of what's going on. So our embroidery tool shed, you see on that image there, the big icon, ETS, that's what we call Embroidery Tool Shed. And Embroidery Tool Shed, not only is it a free program, but it's also the shell that holds all of our tools. So it's the shed that holds all of our software tools. So when you get Embroidery Tool Shed, every single time you purchase a Dime program, the features get combined all in one place, and your shed grows with more and more capabilities the more programs that you purchase. Now, do you have to purchase all of them? No, it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish and do in your software. One program may be all that you ever need, and then some people like to really vary what they're doing. Some people like me just love software, whether I use it to actually embroider or not. I just love playing in software. So I love having all of those options. So, but it's not 100% necessary. But if you do have multiple pieces, they work together. So today we're just going to talk more about understanding how multiple Dime software work together. So I've got a couple of designs that I'm actually going to create that use several pieces so that you can actually see it in action. We actually talked about the process 2 weeks ago, but today we're actually going to implement some of those things that we learned a couple of weeks ago. Now, I see we already have a question that popped up. If you do have a question, I love to answer your question. So make sure that you ask over in the chat. Put a few question marks before. It definitely makes this easier to pick out of the lineup. So D. Cooper says, I still need more info on how to switch between the software features. So D. Cooper, this is super important. You do not need to switch between them. You just stay in one program, and then you're going to use the features from your other programs, generally the icons on the right. So that's actually a great question to get us started. Let me kind of give a quick review, and this will be a refresher for those of you that were here last week, but then those of you that are last time, 2 weeks ago, and if you missed it, this will kind of give you the idea of what we're talking about. So I'm over in my embroidery tool shed, and I have a lot of Dime programs. So over here to the very right, so do you see my cursor blinking? Look to the right part of your screen, and all of these colorful icons, those represent each piece of Dime software. So in my shopping cart tab here, you can see that I have check marks next to all of our software options. Every one of these programs also has a corresponding icon over to the right. The icons to the right are where you could find the specialty features for that program without having to switch back and forth. So I'm going to just do a clean workspace here so our quilt block is not distracting us. But let's say, for instance, that you have set your embroidery tool shed as the default. Now, that's the way I have mine set up. So do you see where my cursor is blinking? The Embroidery Tool Shed is in blue. That means that it is set as my default program. I also know that because if I click this ellipsis option here, I only have tutorial for the option. So this one is already set to default. But notice if I click the options for Perfect Embroidery Pro, I have the ability to make it as a default. Now, let me switch to my block piecer as the default. Everybody, as I switch, watch my icons on my toolbar. So do you see how I have a ton of icons on my toolbar right now? When you switch your default to one of these other programs, the icons on the toolbar switch to the main icons for that particular program. So if you only have one dime program, which is still a really great thing to have, you'll most likely have that program set as the default because it is the one that you have, and your icons would look more similar to this. But my point today, and D. Cooper, this is really important for you. You do not have to switch between those programs. So if I go back and make my Embroidery Tool Shed the default, and I wanted to use something that is in my block piecer, but I don't have an icon for it up here, I can find that over here under my block piecer icon. When I click it, I get a flyout menu, and here are those options. Now, you see here, I've got quilt block as my first one, my cutter, my workflow, my reorder. Those are the main things for my block piecer. And if I switch one more time, let's go back to default for my block piecer, you can see that I've got those first few icons here are the same ones that I have over here because they're the ones that are unique to this program. So block is this block here. It's equivalent to my block icon. The fabric here is equivalent to the fabric. The workflow, the cutter, both available over here, the workflow and the cutter. And there's my reorder option, which is also available here. Okay. So my point is you do not have to switch between programs. I like to leave my Embroidery Tool Shed or my Perfect Embroidery Pro as default. If you don't have Perfect Embroidery Pro, leave the Embroidery Tool Shed as your default. You can always leave your main program as your default. It's entirely up to you. So that is a personal preference. Okay. So you don't have to switch between those programs. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you, let's actually do a project using features. So look at this cute little quilt block here. So I'm going to use features from Patch and Applique Maker software, my Quilt Embellisher, and my Block Piecer software. And I'll tell you what each program does as I'm stepping through those features. But we're going to create this quilt block that can be pieced in the hoop. We can create custom quilting around it, and the applique can be done all in one hooping. So that's the power of using all three of them together. So I'm going to open up a new page. And let's first start with that block. So my quilt block, I want to piece it in the hoop. So I'm going to choose my block piecer, which is Dime's program that will allow you to choose a block and piece it in the hoop. So I'm going to use this snowball block. Okay. You want to make sure that you set the correct size that you need, but I'm going to leave it an 8x8. And now to make this a piece in the hoop project, I need to use my workflow option from my block piecer. And notice over here, I'm going to find that under this icon on the right. So I click workflow. The workflow builds the stitch file that I need in order to piece this in the hoop. By clicking the auto build and then I sort numbers and then click the preview, you can see that now my block has turned all into run stitches. This is a block that's going to stitch in the hoop and piece together my snowball. So let's save it. And then we're going to open that and bring that up into, I'm just going to do that on my desktop, I think. And we'll just call this our snowball block. And click save. Now you want to make sure that you're saving it to the format for your embroidery machine when you're finally done and you're ready to send it to the machine. And so right here, because I'm not quite ready to send it to my machine, I'm just going to leave it as the C2S. That's our native format, and click save. Okay. So it usually opens up exactly where it saves it. So if I click the view icon, now when I click view as extra large, this is my Perfect Stitch viewer working for me. And this is my stitch file. So I'm going to double click it to open it. And you can see it opens up behind there. So I'm going to close out our workflow. And now if I watch my slow redraw, you can see that this is the placement, and then all of these red and green lines are what assembles my pieces in the hoop. Okay, so I just created a piece in the hoop block. Now let's create some quilting that will go on top of it. Okay, so for the quilting, I'm going to go back to my block piecer block library, and I'm going to choose the same block, and you can see that it puts it right on top of that other block. And let's use a design from another program. So I'm going to go down to my Patch and Applique Maker. And from the Applique Designs, I'm going to choose this cute little elephant here. And it puts it right there in the center. If you're not in the center, you could always right mouse click and say Center Origin. Or select your patch, your design, and your block, and use your center options here. Your alignment tools as well will make sure that you're perfectly centered. Okay, so just different ways to do things. Now we've used a design from Patch and Applique Maker. Behind me, or behind my block, is the file that's going to piece my block together, and then it's going to stitch my applique. But now we want to do quilting, so we will have one block that's completely appliqued and quilted in the hoop. So I'm going to do a right mouse click, and under Utility, choose Create Outline. Now we can answer specific questions about this, but I just want to show you how all these pieces work together. You may not have all of these pieces or all of these features, but this is just a really great example. So I'm going to do Preview for my Create Outline. Now a lot of our software has the Create Outline feature, and what it does is it automatically puts an outline around whatever design you have selected, and you can change the distance. I'm going to put it a little bit further away and click Preview so that you can see the gap, because I want you to see what's happening. So when I click OK, I've got an outline around my block. So now I'm going to select that outline and my center block and combine the two. Combining, it actually will it's like a trim or an exclude, where it actually cuts out that area. So you can see I've got a perfect hole that my applique fits into. Now, if I choose my block, I'm going to use my quilt embellisher. Here's my quilt embellisher over here to the right. I'm going to use the Echo Quilting option and click Echo Quilt, and it's going to Echo Quilt around my cute little elephant there. And we can increase the spacing between our stitches if we want our quilting to be a little more open. I'm going to make that a little darker color so that we can really see it well. There we go. Okay, and then these corner pieces, I'm going to hold down my control key and select all of them, and then go back over to my quilt embellisher, and I'm going to choose the advanced stippling, which are decorative quilting options. And I'm just going to choose this one. I know it's kind of generic, but I think it goes well with this setup that I've got going on here. And look how cute that is. Now, let me reiterate what we just did. So let's watch the slow redraw. Now, I know that's a lot of colors up there, but we've got a lot going on. So the first thing that's going to happen on this block is actually, let me zoom out a little bit so that the whole block shows on the screen. So the first thing that's going to happen is we created a block that's going to piece our snowball in the hoop. Okay, so it's going to piece my block. There are my stitch file that's going to piece my snowball block. The next thing that's going to happen is it's got the quilting. Now, I wanted the applique to stitch next so that I could quilt through all three of my layers of my fabric, batting, and backing. So I'm going to click and get out of that, and I'm going to reorder this. Over here, I'm going to put my my applique that I can see in my sequence view. I'm going to just click and drag, and I'm going to drop it after the first group there, which is my stitch file for piecing my block. Now let's watch it again. So I'm going to piece it in the hoop. Oh gosh, and then I just messed it up again. So look, this is why I love my undo key. Okay, so I'm going to undo, and for whatever reason, my it put it after my first one. So I'm just going to do that again. And it actually did it again. I really don't know why that's doing that. So let's do something different. Let's send our quilting to be quilted at the end. And so that's something I'll explore to see why it was separating out my pieces and not just putting it after my group, but I got it fixed. That's a good reason to watch our slow redraw. Okay, let's do it again. So third, fourth, fifth time's the charm, right? Okay, so it's going to do our piecing, and then it's going to do my applique elephant. Look at that. And that's exactly what I want, because I can applique my elephant in the center of my block after it's pieced, and then I can float my batting underneath and my backing if I want, and then my quilting is going to stitch last, and it's going to quilt through all 3 layers. So that right there is one of the absolute best uses of using all 3 of those software together and all on one screen. Okay, so now that again was my block piecer, my quilt embellisher, and patch and applique makers where the design came from, and that was using all 3 together. Now I do know that not all of you guys have all of those pieces to be able to duplicate this, which would be impossible for me to make a design that fit everybody, but I just wanted to show you how they actually do function together to create one design. So now all I would need to do is save this to my embroidery machine format, or either send it to my Brother or Baby Lock wireless capable embroidery machine. So right now I could click the send to machine, and I could send it directly to one of my 2 machines that I have that are wireless. But if you don't have a wireless ready Brother or Baby Lock machine, just choose the file, choose save as, locate your thumb drive. That's usually what I do. My thumb drive, when you plug it in, it'll usually show up under your PC. And so click on the thumb drive, and then you can save that. Make sure you choose the format of your embroidery machine. So that's going to make sure that your machine can read that file. So hopefully that makes sense. I know that that was a lot, but let's see if we have any questions. And then we're going to do another lesson that uses 3 different pieces of software together too, with my lace maker and a Word Art and Stitches and cut and stitch. I'm going to use those 3 next. So let's just see if we've got any other questions here. So Kathy Purdy says, last week you mentioned fonts in the paid Embroidery Tool Shed Plus. I'm assuming that's what she means there. Are those in any of the paid programs? So the Embroidery Tool Shed Plus, yes, all of those fonts are in some other program. So most of the regular fonts would be in your Perfect Embroidery Pro. There's an applique font in Embroidery Tool Shed Plus that is from Patch and Applique Maker. There is, and I think it's also in Word Art and Stitches. There is a foam font that is from Word Art and Stitches, and I think the monogram fonts are a combination of Word Art and Stitches and also Perfect Embroidery Pro. So yes, those fonts that are in the Embroidery Tool Shed Plus, you possibly have in another program if you do own embroidery, like our Perfect Embroidery Pro or Word Art and Stitches. Most of them are between those 2 programs. So good question, though. Very good question. Okay, and so D. Cooper says, should I also work the same in my Mac installed as it is in work in Windows? Yes, it does. So when you install Dime software on your Mac computer, when you open your Embroidery Tool Shed, it looks just like what you're seeing today. And it works exactly the same. So all of your elements, you should be able to access all from Embroidery Tool Shed. So all of your components, all of those features will all be accessed from Embroidery Tool Shed. Really, the major difference with Mac and PC is really, you know, your file structure, how you're saving your files and things like that. But the program itself is identical in those 2, other than maybe your Mac commands, things like that. So really good question in there. So, and then Monica Seeger says she has Word Art and Stitches, Cut and Stitch, Pam, and Special Effects. So that's awesome. So you guys are really a lucky group to have so many different software. I love that. So, and then Linda Rose says, I have several of the different software, the lace maker, the jewelry, different ones. Yep. But they don't all show up in my tool shed. How do I get them added? So the jewelry that you're referring to, Linda, those are design collections. And so design collections will not show up in the shopping cart area. The shopping cart is just for the program itself. So I know a lot of times people will use the word software when they're referring to designs, but they really are two different things. So a software program is not just a collection of files, whereas design files or embroidery designs are really just a collection of files. It doesn't allow you to edit and things like that. So those jewelry lace collections are design collections, and when you download and install them, there's an option in the installer in order to install it inside of your embroidery tool shed, and it would then show up in the library in My Lace Maker. And so when I go back over, I'll show you that. That's actually a really great question as well. So let's see if we have any other questions before we see another option. And so just scrolling through, looking. We have lots of people still joining. Hey, thanks for being here, Laurie. You guys know Laurie. She's part of our education team, and everybody's saying hi to her too. So thank you so much for being here and joining us today. And then D. Cooper also says, how big should I make my backing and my batting to float under my hoop? Just bigger than your block itself. So that was an 8x8 block. And so if I'm using, well, I couldn't use my 8x8 hoop because it would, with the seam allowance, it wouldn't fit. But say you're using your 9.5 by 9.5 hoop, if you have one with an 8x8 block in there. When I stitch my block, my batting and my backing only needs to cover my block. So I would just make it, at least an 8.5 by 8.5, maybe 9 by 9, just to give you a little wiggle room, and then you could trim that excess away. When I do that, I'm usually doing quilt as you go. I'll do one block and completely quilt that block, or something like that would make a good trivet, pot holder, and then you could finish it, just as that one block, or a mug rug. I love doing mug rugs all in the hoop at one time as well. So really good question. And then Margaret Chance says, so I can move the group up or down, or move the group to wherever I want. Yes, you can. And not just the group, Margaret. You can actually move the individual elements. You guys know we've talked about group and ungroup before, where a group holds all of your objects together so that when you move them, they don't separate. And when you group them together, you can move the entire group. Or in the case of my elephant, I could have just moved his toes or his eyes or something like that. So you can move one object up and down or an entire group. But yes, just click it, drag it, and release it. So, and that's all you have to do to move it. So that's a really good question. So, and then Shug881 says, how do I remember all of this? You know what? I cannot help you with that, and I will honestly say you probably won't remember it all, but these videos you can rewatch as many times as you like. And what I would say to you, any of you that's overwhelmed by the amount of information that I share with you on the software, you have to remember I have worked for Dime since we only had 3 pieces of software. And every single time they add one, I'm learning one piece of software at a time. But as you are introduced to Dime and you're purchasing your pieces, you might get a lot more. But what I can say, my biggest word of wisdom is use your software every day that you embroider. And even if it's just opening the design in your software and watching it redraw on the screen, or maybe just, picking parts and pieces of it apart, even if you don't have to, but just open it each day and use it. Use it for what you need for your project that day. And if you learn it based on what you need it for, then I think it sinks in better, and then it means so much more. I love that you guys watch all of these presentations, but I know it's a lot of information and it's hard to retain if you yourself aren't applying it right away. So open it every day, use your software for what you need it for, and then that'll help you learn more and more. So really good question though, Shug. I really do. I can relate because it is hard to to remember all of these things. So, and then this by Chris. Sorry, I always want to read that as one word. So this by Chris Embroidery. She says, I have Lace Maker and I want to digitize some earrings. So where is the best place to find education to do that? So to me, the best place for education is watching what other designers are doing. So if there are some lace earrings that you already own, I will watch that stitch out on my machine or on the screen over and over and over to see what a good designer is actually doing, what they're putting down, how they're connecting their pieces. And in My Lace Maker, it's really easy because just a shape could make an earring, and then you could add other things to it, which is really easy. And that would be just learning My Lace Maker alone. So really good question. And the next example that I'm going to do, this by Chris Embroidery, is I'm actually going to use My Lace Maker with a couple other programs. So that'll give you kind of a little snippet there. So what's the difference in Embroidery Tool Shed Plus and the free version? So the free version of Embroidery Tool Shed will let you do, you know, some common tasks like resize, rotate, change the color of your design. But the Tool Shed Plus has built-in font, so you can actually add text to your design. But it also has the ability to let you group and ungroup a design, which means that you can edit your design because you can ungroup it. By ungrouping, it'll let me access the different layers of my design, so I could always delete and remove parts. So it does have some other features in the Embroidery Tool Shed Plus, but it's definitely a great place to start if you want to do some minor editing for your design. So another good question. So Gail Smith Johnson says, are these pieced individually or as a group? So priced individually or as a group? So all of Dime software are sold individually, and we don't sell them as a bundle because you never know who has what. But you can pick and choose which piece of software you want. So they all work individually, so you don't have to have another one to make it work, except for our Edge to Edge plugin. That's the only one at this time that requires another program. So then you can buy the piece that really relates to you. So it's, you know, it's kind of customizable to what you need and what you want. So really good question. Okay, so let's go back over, and I'm gonna talk about, I'm kind of scrolling back through here, and we were talking about the My Lace Maker and the jewelry. So let me answer that question for Linda Rose first. So I'm going to open up a new page here, not that I have to, but just so you understand. So when you have My Lace Maker software, over here in your shopping cart, My Lace Maker is one of the software programs that will have a check mark next to it. But those earrings that Linda says that she owns, those actually would install in the My Lace Maker library. So if I click on the My Lace Maker icon, I have a lace design library and frames, which are just kind of like an outline shape. So I'm going to choose the design frame. And under there, I have one category called designer collections. And if I push the plus, I have designer collections from Angela, Eileen, Embroidery Garden, and also Kimberbell. And so you can see under Eileen's collections, I have the jewelry collection. I'm actually missing a jewelry collection, it looks like. But just so you know, the jewelry collection would be installed, because it's designs, it would be installed under the designer collection in your library. So hopefully that helps you, Linda. And that happens when you install it. If you've already installed the designs and they didn't go in here, you can do the same install. And then there's actually an option that says, I want to put these in My Lace Maker, and you want to check that option. You can always contact our technical support, and they can also help with that as well. So hopefully that helps you with that answer. If you have other questions, you know, definitely ask again. I'm happy to answer below if it's something I can help you with. Okay, but now let's do another design. Again, I can't guarantee you have all pieces of this, the software, but I want to show you through another example of how you would use all three of these together again. So for this one, I'm going to use artwork from Cut and Stitch. So I'm going to click on my Cut and Stitch icon and click on the library of artwork shapes. So all of these shapes in Cut and Stitch they are not embroidery. It's just an artwork shape. Okay. So I'm going to use this cat shape here, and I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to set this cat to be, let's do, maybe like 4 inches tall and click OK. And then I'm going to zoom out. Now I'm going to use my bubble text from Word Art and Stitches. Okay, so Word Art and Stitches has an option that will fill a shape with whatever words you choose. So with my cat selected, I'm going to click my Word Art and Stitches and click my bubble text option, and it will open my cat in the bubble text pop-up window automatically. Okay, so now this cat is not in the bubble text selection, but I can use my artwork from other programs. Okay, so now for my cat, maybe I want to put my cat's name, so I'm going to put Fluffy. Other things about my cat: I love my cat. She's sweet, she's soft, whatever you want to say about your pet or your cat or whatever. And then when I click apply, it fills the shape with the words that I chose. I've got all of these settings that I can adjust, and we've actually talked about this before, about these different settings. And so I'm not going to go over a lot of them because this is really about using the software together, and it's not specifically about bubble text. But I'm going to change to some different colors. I changed the text, I changed the angle, and click apply, and then I'm going to click OK. So now I've got this shape of my cat with my words that fill it, that's specifically from bubble text, but yet the shape of my cat is from cut and stitch software. Okay, so now let's go over and talk about that ungroup and group. Okay, so now this design is grouped together. So if I move it, you can see it moves all as one unit. But if I ungroup it, you can see that it's grouped over here in my sequence view. If I click the ungroup on my toolbar or under your right mouse click, I can see every object individually, which means take a look at this. In this case, it's all text, but it allows me to select that artwork outline separately than the text, because my lace maker, I can actually click on that option and I can choose lace grid with border. And now I have filled my cat with that lace option from my lace maker. So now this would be a freestanding cat with my bubble text words in it for my design. So now all I need to do is save that to my embroidery machine format, take it to my embroidery machine, and I'm ready to stitch out. So that used the shape from Cut and Stitch, the My Lace Maker, and Word Art and Stitches bubble text. So pretty cool, right? Now let's do, I don't want to leave our dog lovers out. So I'm going to group this together because I don't want to accidentally move. Watch what happens if something is not grouped. I could accidentally move something that I didn't mean to, but just as the question, I forgot who asked the question about the Embroidery Tool Shed Plus versus the free one. Because I can ungroup it, that means I can edit, delete parts and pieces of the design. So because I can ungroup, I could actually delete these words that I wanted. Just maybe I don't want soft right there, or maybe I don't want the love right there, and I just delete it. Okay, so I'm going to just group this back together, Control A, and then I'm going to do the shortcut key, Control G to group. And now let's do that again. So this time I'm going to just choose a different animal because I don't want to leave out our dog lovers. So I'm going to go to Cut and Stitch, and I'm going to use the design from Cut and Stitch. So for this one, let's do a dog shape. So I'm going to do this little spaniel here. And now I can set the size to be exactly what I want, or I could even click and drag to resize it by clicking any of these shapes on the screen. Click, hold, and drag. Okay. And then now with my shape selected, I'm going to click Word Art and Stitches, bubble text. For this one, we're going to put in information. So maybe our spaniel's name is Jack, and he is playful and fun and cute. You can put as many words as you want. Okay, and then I click apply. It fills with that word. Now before I just left it the artwork, but you can change it to be a run stitch on the outside or an applique or whatever. But let's do the same thing. So I'm going to leave that artwork shape again. And you can change the colors. You can change the direction of your letters. I love the any because it really seems like it just fills it in a lot better. And then I'm going to click OK. And now again, I'm going to ungroup and then just select that artwork outline over on my lace maker. I'm going to do lace outline with grid, and I'm actually going to change that color a little bit lighter so we can really see it there. So look how cute is that. So now that design right there used my lace maker to make the shape into a lace design. So this will be freestanding, and all of that text will stitch on that lace grid, and it can be a freestanding design. That'd be a cute little ornament for a Christmas gift if you want. So even a place card setting you could do out of freestanding lace. So many different things for freestanding lace. So what do you think? Isn't that super cool? Okay, so let's see if we have any other questions. I know that was a lot. And again, I want to say that I know that not everybody has the pieces of software that I was showing. So I wanted to make sure that I just wanted to show you an application that is really why you would use it together. So last time we talked about the how, but I wanted to make sure I showed those different actual design elements so that you could understand that process. So, okay. And so, oh, and Patricia Hell, she had another good point. I think she was talking to Shug when she said, how do I remember all this? And she says, I also take notes on the time on the video of each thing so that I can come back to it. That's actually a really good point. These are generally roughly an hour long. And so if you make notes of the time mark of this is when she did, you know, these things, then you can easily get back to it. I really like that, Patricia. Thank you for sharing. So really good point. And then Laurie says, what I love about Dime software is that once you learn the workspace, you will find that similarities between the modules. And that is so true, because really learning how it works is the biggest part. But once you kind of understand that, it's really locating the feature at that point. And sometimes that is a challenge, but you guys know how to get in touch with me and the rest of our education team. So you certainly can ask questions over on our YouTube channel if you can't find something. So, and then Chris Vick, thank you for being here. Crick, she said, I have my lace maker and I want to digitize. Oh, we did that already. Digitize some earrings and then education to do that. So I definitely would look for my lace maker education in general, because it'll teach you the features of the software. But to me, watching other designs from designers that you know are very good digitizers, to me, is the best way that you can learn from what they do in their designs. And we said that already. I'm backtracking, trying to make sure that I'm all caught up on the questions here. So, and then D. Cooper says, do any of the Dime software pieces allow importing computer fonts to create custom embroidery? Yes. So those are true type fonts that we can use in our software. So Perfect Embroidery Pro uses them. Cut and Stitch uses them. I think, I'm trying to think of which other ones. I can't think of off the top of the head, and I don't want to tell you incorrectly. You guys always really challenge me with those questions of which software has which features, but I'll show you. I've got another thing that I wanted to show you with that true type font that was actually a request. And I know Monica was one of the ones that requested it. And so we'll see that, and I'll show you how to find those true type fonts. So that's coming up in just a minute, D. Cooper. So hang in there. And then Joy Streed says, I have the tool shed. If I update to Plus, does that update my free version? Do I find it on the website to purchase? Yes. So if you update or if you purchase the Embroidery Tool Shed, once you receive your serial number, Joy, then you will go over to that shopping cart tab and click on the option next to the Embroidery Tool Shed Plus, and you'll activate it. You don't have to reinstall. You don't have to download anything. If you already have the free Embroidery Tool Shed, you just need your serial number after purchase in order to activate your Embroidery Tool Shed Plus module? So really good question. And yes, we do have it available on our site for sale that you certainly can check out. I always urge you to check locally. If you have a dealer that sells dime product locally, check with them. They may be able to give you an even better deal. I always like to support local, and it also gives you an ability to have somebody to talk to. Most every dealer that sells any dime product or software offers free support and education. Most of them, I'm not speaking for everyone, but it gives you a personal relationship that you can go locally and also ask questions. So that's another really awesome thing about purchasing local. So, and then D. Cooper says, how about adding a ring for a hanging? Yes. So you can add a circle and then put that to a steel stitch, which is a column stitch, and that'll make you a little eyelet for hanging. I'll do that when I go back over to show that last thing. So I was just looking for any last questions here. So CJ Wong, thanks for being here, CJ. So she says, what software to start with if you're new? If you have no embroidery software whatsoever, I would say Embroidery Tool Shed Plus is a great place to start. Or either Cut and Stitch is another great place to start. It has embroidery and cutting if you have a digital cutter. So I think those are two great places to start if you don't have anything whatsoever. Other than that, I would say pick the software based on what it is you want to do, because we have quilting software if really quilting with your embroidery machine is your first goal. So another good question. So Gail Smith Johnson says, when you increase or decrease the size, does it adjust the stitches appropriately? Or is that another adjustment to do manually? No, it actually does that automatically for you. When you resize larger or smaller, it does recalculate the stitches. So that's another really great question. So let me head over there. I'll show you guys the eyelet, and I want to show you one more project that we had at a request, and then we'll answer some more questions. So if you've got more questions, make sure you're asking them. Okay, so for the eyelet that was mentioned, if you wanted to make these like a little ornament, a lot of our software has the artwork tool. That's this one here, which allows you to draw shapes that you can then turn into stitches. So if I choose the ellipse tool, I can click and drag a circle. Now look at this. If I want to make a perfect circle, I can hold down my control key. If you just click and drag, you can make an oval, but if you hold your control key and click and drag, it makes a perfect circle. The same is true with the rectangle, the diamond, triangle. It'll make a perfect shape if you hold down the control key. If you don't hold down the control key, then you can make and stretch that shape like I'm doing right here. Okay. So now I'm just going to take this small oval. This is artwork. This is not a, let's put it right on his back maybe instead of his head, like right here for our hanging. And it is artwork. It is not stitches. So we need to turn it into stitches. Now I would turn that into a steel stitch. So if I do a right mouse click under my convert to menu, then I can convert it to a steel. Steel means satin of the same width. Okay. So it runs around and it's all the same width. I just make sure it's overlapping the edge of my outline there so that it's going to hold together when I stitch that on my water soluble stabilizer. And then you've got a little hanger that you can put that on. So if you convert your shape, if I do select this and I do a right mouse click under my convert to menu, you may not have all of these options. These options come from the fact that I own software that give me these options. Your list may be completely different than mine based on the pieces of software that you own. Okay. So that is really important. And I want to make sure we understand that. I just converted that one to an applique. If I right mouse click, I can convert it to a run stitch, whatever it is that you want. Okay. But yes, you can add that little eyelet. Okay. So the next thing I want to show you is a request that we had. Let me find my picture here. So our friend Reen Wilcoxon of Embroidery Garden posted these letters that she had made. She had put some of them as patches on a hat, and she made this little keychain. And there was a request for me to show how to create such a letter. So this letter is really easy to create with using true type fonts. Just as the question was, can you use fonts that are on your computer? And the answer is yes. Perfect Embroidery Pro and also Cut and Stitch use true type fonts. So does your Special Effects, and Lace Maker, I think, is the other one. And I think that's all of them that have true type fonts built in. But let's talk about how you access those. Okay, so from your Cut and Stitch menu here, I have the text option right on my menu, my drop down here. And if I choose that and I click on the screen, this is true type text. And I know that by a couple of different things. So look over here in my sequence view. If I push the plus sign and it says that it's text, that is of type text, meaning that I can go back and change this at any time I want because the software knows that that's a text object. So say here that we wanted to put our word and I click apply. Now, if I look in my properties here, there's a check mark next to the TT. That lets me know that this is a true type font that I'm using. And this list is the fonts that live on my computer, okay? This list may be totally different than the list that's on your computer, okay? And right now, there are no stitches. I can tell that because I don't have a stitch count here in my sequence view, but also it says artwork. And so if I click this drop down, I can change this to a satin, an artwork, a bling, which is rhinestone stroke or a rhinestone fill. Because I have Cut and Stitch, I can do the bling options, okay? Now, in Perfect Embroidery Pro, I'm going to open up a new page, and notice when I click this text tool here and I click on the screen, we can automatically see that that looks like stitches. If I press the plus, it's still a text object, but notice these numbers after the text. 1524 means there are 1,524 stitches in that letter. So I know that it is a stitched font. Also, these are built-in fonts because there's no check mark next to my TT. If I do click that, it then flips my list to my true type font, and look at it, it's automatically converting it to embroidery. Okay, it's still embroidery, but I'm using my true type font list. Now, if I wanted to use it as an artwork text, then instead of satin, I'm going to switch to artwork and click apply. Okay, now I'm going to go from my drop down list and I'm going to choose a kind of a chunky font. So let's do this freshman here, and then just choose, your letter, and I'm going to leave it A. That's perfectly fine. You're going to set the size of it. So let's make it like, say, a 2.5 inch letter. And now to create that outline, let me flip back over to that picture. So do you see that little bitty outline of gold? That's actually a little bit of Caesar HTV, but it's an applique with another font on top of it. Okay, so we need all these different layers, and she also has one last layer that is cut out there for the actual shape of the keychain. So if I go back to my letter here, I'm going to do a right mouse click, and under utility, say create outline, and then I can put the distance that I want that gold to show around my shape. Now, you can set it to whatever you like. I'm going to do 0.15 just so we can really show it. And then the joins here, watch my points. So you have the option for those to be rounded. So if I switch to round, you can see how it rounds off those corners. You can also switch to miter, which makes those sharp points, and beveled, where it'll give you that beveled edge on the corner. And that is entirely up to you, the designer, what you want to do. And I'm going to click OK. So now I've got an outline around the outside that I am going to turn into an applique, and then we're going to turn our letter into a different stitch. So I'm going to select my outline here, and I'm going to choose to turn that into an applique. Now I can use my effects panel because I have Perfect Embroidery Pro. I have the effects panel, and I could click applique. If you do not have the effects panel, that just means you don't have Perfect Embroidery Pro, then choose your right mouse click and say convert to, and look for your applique there if you have a program that gives you the ability to convert to applique. Now, it's up to you if you want that to be a satin or a run or whatever. So in my type here, I'm going to choose run because that's what Reen did on hers. She's got a run stitch on the outline for her HTV. And then for this interior here, she used a specialty fill from our special effects software. Now, we haven't talked about special effects yet, so I'm actually going to leave that to another day. But if you click it, you would then click your option for your specialty fill. But because we haven't talked about special effects, I'm just going to do a right mouse click and say convert to complex fill. And so now this would give me my applique outline. And so I could put an applique fabric so it would be peeking out against the edge there to give me that look. Now let's watch this slow redraw. So if I click and watch this, it's going to do the complex fill first, and then it's going to do the applique. Is that what we want? No. Here's the value of watching your slow redraw, is you can correct that before you get to the machine. Now, let me try my drag and drop again and see if it's going to work this direction. So if I click on this bottom applique object, I can click and drag up and drop it at the very top to make sure it's the first item, okay? Or because there's only, and I wanted it to stitch first, I could have used my send to back option. The send to front and the send to back just gets it all the way to the front and all the way to the back. Now, if we watch this stitch out, wrong button. I'm going to go to my slow redraw. Now we're going to get an applique run stitch and placement. And so this is where you would put down like your HTV or your fabric and then let it tack it down. This is a raw edge, so you could trim it away. And then your decorative stitch is going to go on top of that. And in Reen's case, she used the varsity fill, and then this is just the complex fill, but it's that same concept. So I know Monica had asked for that, and I think maybe Ann Price, if she's here, that ladies was specifically for you. And then it was just the perfect segue because of CJ Wong's question. I think it was about the, wait, no, it wasn't CJ. Somebody else that said, you know, how do we use those true type fonts? So that was a great segue for that as well. So, okay, so let's answer some questions before we go, and then I'll tell you what you're going to see next time. So Anne says that, is the quality of the true type font as good as the ones that come in the software? No. When you use a true type font, if you're using it as an artwork, yes, artwork is artwork is artwork if it is a vector type file. But when it converts automatically, nothing can top a digitizer that can digitize fonts from scratch. When you convert a true type font automatically to embroidery, it may not be as perfect where it joins and things like that, whereas a font digitizer will make that perfect. But a lot of them do come out really nicely. You'll probably be able to tell mostly on the screen if it looks good. So that's a really good question, Anne, for sure. So, and then Phyllis says, what would be the advantage to purchase the Perfect Embroidery Pro versus the Tool Shed Plus? So Perfect Embroidery Pro is a full digitizing software, so I can pretty much create anything that I want to from scratch in Perfect Embroidery Pro. In Embroidery Tool Shed Plus, I have the ability to group and ungroup, which means I can edit, but I can't edit. I can't create from scratch. I can't digitize fills. I can't digitize satin stitches, things like that. So Perfect Embroidery Pro is really for, you know, if you want to digitize, create from scratch, or just like to have a lot of extra tools when you are tinkering, that's a good way to use Perfect Embroidery Pro. But the Embroidery Tool Shed Plus is just some very general things that we kind of use every day. And, you know, if you're starting out and you want to work with. So really good questions. So, okay. So So then Janie Bourne says, which module would you recommend if you wanted to digitize your own embroidery designs? That would include Stitch Optimizer and Density Advisor. So digitizing your own designs would be Perfect Embroidery Pro. That is the tool for creating your own designs. You can do pretty much anything you want to in there as long as you know how to create from scratch. And it does have the ability, you can adjust your stitches, the density, you can change the density, but when you say Density Advisor, that's actually something a little bit completely different. But when you're digitizing from scratch, you're really creating your own fills, and you certainly can set the density of whatever it needs to be. So really good question, Janie. And then Carol Tripp says, with ETS Plus, can you edit other embroidery designs? Yes, you can. You can ungroup them and you can remove parts and pieces and delete if you want to, but it is different than if you're editing something that is built in C2S. But yes, you absolutely can edit designs that come in from other sources. So, and then Cindy Clark says, which software product would be most helpful to change an image into an applique? So I would say if it's a clip art type image that you're working with, then Cut and Stitch is a good choice. Cut and Stitch has the ability to auto vectorize to an applique. Also, Perfect Embroidery Pro has the auto digitizing wizard, and in Perfect Embroidery Pro, you could bring in your image and convert it to an applique by either manually tracing or using the wizard to create into a vector file as well. So I would say Cut and Stitch, Cindy. My Quilt Embellisher, I don't know that it can bring in the image, so I would say no on that. So Perfect Embroidery Pro or Cut and Stitch, Cindy, I would say, to create an applique from an image. So another really great question. So I was just looking down to see if we have any others. So Monica says, do you get the inside of the A to cut the letter? So if you want the inside of the A to cut, then in your create outline, Monica, choose the inside option, and it should put you an outline on the inside and the outside of your object. I just did the outside because I don't know about most of you, but I really don't want to deal with the inside of that A. And I think it would look cute with the fabric behind there. That's the beauty of creating your own, is you really are the designer and you can choose what you have to cut and what you don't have to cut. So, but if choose in your create outline pop-up, try using the inside option, and it'll give you probably both inside and outside. So, and Monica, you know how to get to me. If that didn't work, let me know over there on our Facebook group. I'll be sure to have answer and happy to help. So, and then Rain says, creating the trendy collegiate letter keychain patches and just letters to embroider are so easy with Dime software. And I definitely agree. She had lots of comments on her hat and her keychain. So a couple people asked if I would show how to do it. Now, I may have done something different than Reen did. And so, but a lot of times the method that gets us there might be different, but the end result will give you what you want for sure. So, and then Kathy says, was the freshman font one of your own TrueType fonts? Yes, it's a font that is from my TrueType font list, and I either purchased or download from somewhere, Kathy. So not really sure if it's one that's built into everybody's computer. So that's a hard thing about, the TrueType font list, is I can't always say where it came from. So, and then Dime, or D Cooper, sorry, she says, Dime have a font digitizer. So we have, we don't have a font digitizer other than your TrueType font that converts to satin. That really is kind of a font digitizer. If you want to digitize a font to be fill stitch, then you would open that TrueType font and do like I did on that last example and do a right mouse click and say convert to complex fill, and it would convert it that way. So that is the font digitizer, is when you bring in a TrueType font and then automatically convert it to stitches. And certainly you can make changes even after it converts if you don't like the way that it digitized for you. So that's a really good point. So, and then does Dime software have a font digitizer? Oh, you already did that. Sorry, she said autocorrect. I knew what you meant though. Really good question. So just looking for any last one. So Linda said, could you show us your earrings? Oh, so thank you. So Linda, so these are one of Eileen's lace charm design collection is the feather. So these are all feathers that are made from freestanding lace, and it was a design collection that Eileen has called Lace Charms that we have on our website. I just stitched 3 of them, and I kind of hung them staggered down like a little chain, and then put them on my earring loops. And then these were made with silver metallic, and then I just have a gray and a black for like kind of an ombre effect. So thank you for noticing, Linda. I love doing freestanding lace earrings. So lots of questions today. I love it. So, and then Cindy Ferris says, will PEP send designs to Scan and Cut? No Dime software will send to Scan and Cut. We can only send to embroidery machines from Brother and Baby Lock that are wireless capable. The Scan and Cut's a little different animal because it the way it receives its files. So no software from Dime can send to the Scan and Cut. So sorry. And then Susie Q says, would you use a buttonhole cutter to cut out the center of the A? So yeah, you certainly could. That's actually a great idea. As I mentioned, I probably would not even cut it out. I would just put my fabric behind there, and then you would see that color in the center of the A, and I think that would look nice, and then it would be easier. But yes, absolutely, you could do that if you want. So, and then PB says, does the program have vertical fonts? Yes. So in the settings for the fonts, from the drop down list, there's a type that says vertical, and then you can choose your vertical options. The vertical option is not in every program that has text, and so Perfect Embroidery Pro is one that has vertical. If you're interested in a specific program that has vertical text, certainly you can message customer service or contact me over on our Facebook user group. It's called Dime Inspiration Software Users. If you have a specific question, then I'll be happy to answer it. And our education team, our other girls from our education team are over there, and as well as thousands of you guys that would also be able to help. So really good question. Then Susie Q, can I rewatch? Absolutely. Go to our YouTube channel and it is saved there. You can rewatch this as many times as you like. And then the last one here before we go, Arlene says, do you connect the Bluetooth to buy Baby Lock? So to send to the embroidery machine from Brother and Baby Lock, it needs to be a wireless capable. It's not Bluetooth. It sends over your network. And so it's a Wi-Fi connection that your Brother Baby Lock machine would need. So, but very good question. So, okay. So before I go, I just want to remind you, so come see me again in 2 weeks. I did tell you a little bit of a fib. I apologize for that. I was thinking next month I was doing the special effects program, but that is actually in July or in August. Sorry. So next month I'm going to be doing some things from Perfect Embroidery Pro again. I think I'm going to work with the split tool. If you guys have something else you want specifically, tell me over there on our user group. I'm happy to customize it. But as you guys know, even if I'm showing Perfect Embroidery Pro split tool, even if you own other programs, you'll definitely learn something from the presentation because a lot of the overlap of how you work the features, even just using the select tool, the sequence view and things like that. So join me in 2 weeks, July the 2nd, right before the holiday. So I look forward to seeing you guys then. 1 o'clock Central, same time, same channel as well. Now, I don't have anything specific since we were talking about all of the programs. You can check out all of them from our Dime site. But please check your local dealer. Go in there and ask them, do you have Dime embroidery software? If they don't, most likely they can. They could contact us and be a dealer for our programs and our items that we sell, our hard good items. So have them contact us. It's really awesome if you can support local, but also the thing that does, as I mentioned earlier, is it gives you a relationship with your local dealer, and you have someone in person that you can go to and ask questions. Most all of them are very helpful in the items that they sell. I can't speak for all about what they offer for lessons and things like that, but a lot of them are happy to answer questions on things that that you've purchased from them. So support local. I think that's always a great idea. So, okay, guys, until I see you on another Software Success, thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you guys learned lots today. See you next time.